Real stories, raw truth. This is Whiskey and War Stories.
Welcome everybody to Whiskey and War Stories, unfiltered voices, unforgettable truths. This is where real stories meets raw grit. And this is season 3, episode 7. What's up, brother? How are you?
Hi, man. How's it going?
Good, man. Really good. Been quite an interesting week to say the least. But we're here. We got a good guest on. As usual, I'm super excited. How about you, Matt? How's it going?
Good. Excited about the guest. A blast from our past. Someone we both worked with a lot of years, and really good guy. I know he has a really good message for us. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. I am as well. I think it's going to be a great guest. So as is customary, every episode, we do a dedication to a fallen hero. And I think you have the fallen hero, correct, Ryan?
I do not. I have the, I'm sorry, I do. My apologies. So every one of our fallen heroes is special, but this one's near and dear. It's a police officer that used to work for us. Her name is Rochelle Shelley Ramirez McCrary. She's a graduate of San Dimas High School and Chaffee Rio Hondo College. She began her law enforcement career as a cadet for the Montclair Police Department. She joined the Pomona Police Department in 1996, where she proudly served for 16 years. Beginning her career as a patrol officer, she also worked as a helicopter observer for many years, culminating in her promotion to detective, where she excelled in putting sexual predators in jail. She also earned the Pomona Police Department's Medal of Courage for her bravery during an officer-involved shooting. Her career was marked by loyalty, professionalism, and genuine love for protecting others. She passed away on Thanksgiving in 2012 and was survived by her husband, Robert McCrary, and their daughters, Robin and Maya. So really good person, always had a great smile, and very well liked and respected our department. So here's cheers and rest in peace to Shelley.
Cheers, Shelley. Rest in peace. And what's really unique, Ryan, about this one is two things. One, I'll say we had Rob on a previous episode before, and he Shelley's husband, and we talked. We had a good conversation. And now, we're speaking with a really close friend of Shelley's. And the second part is kind of why we do this. We're here in this podcast to hopefully say something that would help people that are maybe dealing with stuff, that nobody ever knows, that maybe they just listen to it and helps them. But here we are. So, I also knew Shelley too. So this should be a good episode. And cheers to Shelley.
Yeah, this one hit really close to home. It's almost like, where were you when JFK got shot, right? From what I understand, people remember where they were when they heard on TV, but this one happened on Thanksgiving Day, and we'll get into it later, but I remember exactly what plate I had for Thanksgiving dinner in front of me, where we were at in the dinner, how I found out.
Yeah. Just
something that's ingrained in your psyche for a long time.
Yeah, man.
But you have something you're sipping on there, Jaime?
I do. So for this week's episode, we're drinking to Woodinville Straight Bourbon Whiskey. I'll show you there. I actually had this one for a few years.
Pretty.
Yeah, I never opened it up. And I said, hey, today's a good day. So let's see here. This is handcrafted in Washington State. So it's bourbon distilled in Washington. 90% proof, so that puts it at 45% alcohol by volume. And let me see if there's a story back here. There is. This truly small batch bourbon starts with traditionally grown corn, rye, and malted barley. All of our staple grains are cultivated exclusively for us on Omlin Farm in Quincy, Washington. The grains are mashed and distilled in our Woodinville distillery, then trucked back over the Cascade Mountains to our private barrel houses where central Washington's extreme temperature cycles promote the extraction of natural flavors from the oak. That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm
No,
actually
no.
pleasantly surprised.
Now listen, before you taste it,
Uh-huh.
it's very unusual to me that a bottle of whiskey would last that long unopened in your house. So you promised if you ever taste whiskey that sucks, you got to tell us. Because I'm kind of wary about this one.
I will, and you can see
You're a man of your word, Jaime.
Look at this. You could tell that it's red because I just took a little off the top there, so it's
All right.
So
Have at it. Let's see.
it didn't give me the taste here, so I don't know what to go off. That's how you know I'm a sham, dude. So it is a little bit leathery in the back.
Leather,
There's
of course.
a little bit of bite on the back end of it, but when it first goes in, hits the tip of the tongue. It's a little bit smooth, maybe like a peppery notes. You know, it's not really super sweet to me. And I'm trying to see if there's anywhere on here that gives it like the flavor. Usually it does. Well, okay, aromas of creme brulee and spice cabinet. So the spice I taste.
Okay.
The creme brulee I do not taste. As well as notes of rich caramel, dark chocolate, and vanilla bean. Maybe the vanilla bean I could taste a little subtle, but
No creme brulee, no cheesecake, nothing like
no
that.
cheesecake, no creme brulee.
All right. Fair
overall,
enough.
It's a good whiskey. I would definitely buy it again.
Fair enough.
Woodenville.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, Ryan, you have the pleasure of introducing our special guest this week. So, without further ado, my friend. You want me to do it?
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay, cool. All right. So, here we go. Our special guest this week. Actually, let me throw on this little photo. There, boom. What a handsome gentleman. So, our guest this week, Willie Morataya. So, Willie Morataya has a diverse background in law enforcement, military service, business, and security management. He earned a master's degree in administration of emergency services and a bachelor's in occupational studies from the Cal State University of Long Beach, as well as an associate's degree in social and behavior science from Citrus College. He served 14 years with the Pomona Police Department, holding leadership roles such as patrol supervisor, hostage negotiation team member, field training officer, and background investigation supervisor. Willie is also a U.S. Navy veteran, honorably discharged in 1991, and the recipient of multiple military and law enforcement commendations, including life-saving medals and a Medal of Courage. He was also involved in 2 shooting incidents during his career at Pomona PD. In addition to policing, Willie founded a private investigation firm and provided executive protection for high-profile clients. He also served as a lieutenant in public safety emergency preparedness at Community Hospital San Bernardino and was part of Dignity Health's corporate executive protection team. Currently, Willie is the security operations manager at Pomona Valley Hospital Medical Center, where he ensures compliance and oversees security operations, having worked his way up over 10 years from security officer to his current role. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Willie. What's up, brother? How are you, man?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. I always like reading those bios because I think of all the years that we've known each other, some of the stuff like I didn't know about that. So welcome, man. How are you?
Fine. I'm excited to be here. I've never done this before, so I know you've made fun of the new podcasters that's never done this. So I'm that guy.
You know what? Those are actually the ones that usually do like the best jobs, because I feel like those that have been on a lot of podcasts have become like too comfortable and they kind of know what to say. But most of our guests are new, like 95% of the guests that we've had, and we've had a number of them to date. At least 95% of them have never been on a podcast before. So it's, we kind of pride ourselves in and we've said this in earlier episodes. We pride ourselves in finding guests that aren't the guests that have 25,000 followers and have, we pride ourselves in guests that are like, they're the ones that don't beat their drums and like the quiet, unspoken ones that people never really know about. And those are usually the ones that have like the most telling and best stories. So, and you definitely fit that mold. So we're grateful to have you on here.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, anything?
No, happy to have you on here, Willie. You and I were working together for several years at Pomona PD. I've known you since I was, probably 18 years old when I was a police explorer. So, when you think of someone with a military background, someone very smart, you were one of my mentors to get a master's degree. So I thank you for that. Someone that's very business oriented, someone that has the greatest of ethics, and someone that's been through some trauma. Talk about the perfect guest. I thought of you. So very happy to have you. Welcome.
Thank you, Ryan.
Oh, well. So Willie was he was the one that convinced you to go to schooling for your graduate, right?
Yeah, him and Fabian Valdez, who's the chief for San Fernando, were my two big mentors to getting my education.
A previous guest of ours.
Absolutely. So you're in good stock, Jaime. You're picking them well.
I like it. Perfect. Well, you want to shoot this off, Ryan?
Yeah. So Willie, your story started, I know, growing up in, was it Azusa, I think?
Started off in Culver City, actually.
Yeah.
And then my father, he got us out to Azusa because Culver City was getting too violent. One of the best decisions he ever made is buy a house in Azusa and brought his family over. And I must mention him, he passed away in 2017. But the interesting thing, I always think that no matter how hard things get in life, work, or he was always the one that made me feel like never to give up. Because I grew up very poor in an apartment in Culver City, and then to move to a house, it was very exciting to think that for us to live there though, and it's something that maybe back in those times when I was 7 years old, I didn't think about it, but even though we lived in Azusa, he would drive every day to Culver City to his job. And if you think about that drive from Pomona to Culver City every day, that's a long drive. But he did it for us. He did it for me and my sister and my mom.
And then you eventually moved to, was it Azusa?
Yeah, so they bought a house in Azusa, and my mom, dad, my sister grew up in Azusa. They never, like I said, grew up pretty poor, but they never thought that it would be okay for me not to go to Catholic school. So my entire life, I've always gone from first grade all the way to high school. I was a Catholic school boy, an altar boy, and it was just a given. That's just the way it had to be.
Right.
It was just didn't matter about the finances. I don't know how they did it. When I went to Damien High School, that's where I started learning that if you want to do something, you have to work. And while I was in high school, for them to afford the school, during the summer, I'd have to work and clean up the school to be able to go there.
You were a Damien High graduate?
Yes, sir.
Wow,
How is it that we never knew this? I've known Willie for a long time. I also graduated Damien.
A fellow sophisticate.
I graduated in '87. How about you?
Yeah, no, a little bit after that. I was like 4 years old at that time, but yeah. So
Is there like a secret handshake you guys are going to do right now over the wait?
Yeah. Well, I got to take you off stage in order for us to do it, though.
That was public school, Ganesha High.
I'll spare you the.
Thank you. So really, Azusa, and then I seem to recall in your high school days, you were either a DJ or you were like really into breakdancing. Which was it, or was it both?
Wow, you're bringing way back now.
I also did not know this.
I dabbled. My cousin was a DJ, so I dabbled a little bit in DJing, but part of that scene was also a little bit of breakdancing, but never had the moves quite like the guys that really know how to do it, but definitely brought it back in my younger Pomona days after Fair Party.
After Fair Parties.
A few little battles. I'll throw a shout out there right now. Ugardi, whenever you want to battle, let's do this.
Who's that?
Tim Ugardi.
Oh, but did you know Pac is he's also like
he's
like a professional breakdancer or something.
AKA Cyber.
Is it? Oh, that's right. That's right.
I remember that.
Actor can.
we all thought that we were all bitching, somewhat, older break dancers. But then he comes out and he does that little hand move where you just hold your entire weight on one hand, and he's bouncing.
Pac?
Yeah, Pac. He's bouncing around, spinning on his hand, and we're like, oh hell no. Game over.
I never knew that.
Ryan was doing the kickworm.
Yeah, I've been known to do the inchworm.
Oh, you too, right?
Yeah, right. Fresh after back surgery one time, and it wasn't the best decision of my life, but hey, it was fun at the time.
All right.
No, we were super young. I don't think you had any of your surgeries, but
no, for sure I did. Oh, wow. After one of the inchworm incidents. But Willie, so I know at a certain point you decided to go to the military. What caused you to go to the military, and tell us a little bit about your service?
So basically, there's a few choices out of Damien. Pretty much, I would say, I think at that time about 80% would go to a 4-year university, and then the other like 10% would undecided, and then the other 10% would go to the military. And the funny thing is that the only reason why I couldn't afford to go to college. I needed the GI Bill, and to be totally honest, in 1987, if you guys remember the movie Top Gun, it was when I joined the military because I wanted to be a pilot. So I was chasing my dreams somewhat, and when I got in, they told me right away that you have to have like perfect vision, and I couldn't pass the colorblind test, so that immediately disqualified me. But in the military, they actually put you through not SEAL training, but they put you like maybe like a 10-minute trial of torture to see if you could be in a Navy SEAL, and obviously I didn't go that route.
Right.
But I ended up getting stationed on the USS Enterprise and the USS Lincoln. They're both aircraft carriers, and I was stationed in San Diego at VF-114, which was...
Who's that?
VF-114 is a F-14 squadron. So
my goodness.
I was definitely sort of following my dream because I was working with F-14s.
Oh my goodness. I've never seen this.
That's me actually in my flight jacket working on the jets. I had the opportunity to go all over the world. I've been to places that I would never be if I didn't join the military. And just to give you Saudi Arabia, Africa, Brazil, Philippines, Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore.
Willie, did you originally test for the Air Force, or was it always the Navy? Like you were trying to be a naval pilot?
Always a naval pilot.
And why specifically the Navy? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, totally. Top Gun. Top Gun sold me. Watching that movie, Tom Cruise. I was wearing the jeans and the white T-shirt.
Okay.
I seriously was motivated by that movie.
Yeah, there was a stat. I think recruitment for the Air Force at that time was driven up several 100% because of that movie, and I see why. You even got the Tom Cruise hair going on there.
I was going to say that too. Yeah, he's got that. He has that top.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I do have a funny story about that jacket.
Yeah.
So those jackets are pretty rare, and they're hard to get, especially like you're all brand new people on the boat and they look at you. So one of the sad things, like when you go on an aircraft carrier, I mean, you have to sustain everybody. There's 5,000 people on this boat. You have to sustain that, and that means working in the kitchen. And a lot of times there's a lot of bartering going on the Navy ships, so you don't have to get the worst jobs. And if I was going to go to a port, I want to be able to have like all the liberty possible. So there was a certain job that you get, and one of them was supply. So I traded my jacket for a supply job, and that's where that jacket's gone. Where I don't know what happened to it, and I could never get another one. Because that was actually the official pilot, what the pilots wear. But I was able to be on Liberty every single port. I never had to do any type of duty. Like when you had to go into port, it was like 12 on, 12 off type of thing. I would get the full time. So it was worth it in the long run.
And how long did you serve in the military?
4 years.
Uh, and transitioning from the military back to civilian, like how was that for you? And what was the time I guess the time delay between the time you left and the time you became a police officer, or were there jobs in between that?
So I can tell you the military. I don't know. It just may sound weird, but I was a big mama's boy. My mom did everything, for me. Cook, clean, just took care of everything when I was a kid. And I remember being in boot camp and crying like a baby, wanting to get the hell out of there. But I think the military just it, it ingrains you to understand that you can survive anything. Working 24 hours, you're making like 75 cents an hour or whatever. I never did the math, but in a way, it's kind of torture. Um, but then at the end of it, it's like the service and the honor. And I used to remember landing at an airport and people applauding us. I never really understood how important that felt, because it really pushed me to keep going and not letting people down. And I think that's one of the lessons that the military taught me. It taught me how to be a man, honestly.
Yeah.
Willie, speaking of lessons, you had your time in the military. You progressed to being a supervisor at a police department, and now you lead several people at the hospital at your position. Anything specifically that the Navy taught you about how to be a leader that you kind of carry on to those jobs today?
The main thing, a lot of it has to do with, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but I think people quit too easily nowadays, or they feel like life is so hard. And it is. There's times where everybody has their days, but no matter what, you'll get through it. You'll get through whatever problems are happening. And I think that the military, they have you have different folks. I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to come on this show, because I never understood suicide. That was another thing too in the military. That's why I learned about death. Death in an accidental way, where we're working on the planes and there's different machinery that's used. And one machine, I recall this because I was there at this death. But ultimately, one of our fellow airmen, we're called airmen. He was starting up the F-14, which is a machine. He used a machine that blows air, and it starts the motors. Somehow, when he started the engine, it was in gear, and he got crushed in between one of the engines of the jet and the actual puffer machine. We all ran out there, and I was probably 19 years old. I knew him very well. We all worked together, and just seeing him losing his just not being able to breathe, and just it sounded like he was choking, and I had no clue what to do. We just waited. We waited for an ambulance and the medical folks to show up. But I saw him die like right before my eyes, and at the time, you really don't think about like his family, because I'm so young. The effect of it was like, what the hell just happened? You just don't process it. But that guy is now dead. We're never going to see him again.
Yeah.
And then the military also has your folks that one day you hear that this guy, he was working perfectly fine, and the next day they say that he passed away. And then I learned to realize that when they would tell us that somebody passed away, it wasn't that they passed away from natural causes. Some did, but when you go on a cruise, you're out there for 6 months. Some people are going to die of natural causes. You have a morgue on the ship, but then a lot of people just commit suicide. I never even thought about why they did it. I never imagined what could be so horrible in their lives that they had to do something like that. But again, that's where it wasn't really, I don't want to say, for lack of better words, relevant at the time, because nobody seemed to care. Nobody seemed to care that that kind of stuff would happen. It's almost like if you did that, shame on you, and oh well, let's move on.
Yeah. And this was, we're talking late 80s, early 90s.
I was military 87 to 91.
So we look at mental health today, right? And I'll take your own organization. I would assume that you probably have peer support, and if people at your business, if they're suffering some type of mental health crisis, that there's avenues for them to take in order to address that. We have CTI at Pomona, we have employee assistance programs, we have peer support. I imagine that you probably do too in your place of work. What did that look like back then in the 80s? What was peer support back then? Or did it even exist?
Didn't even exist. I never heard about anything as far as if you're feeling a certain way, come dial this number or come talk to this person, or we have this organization. And it really continued on, even when I started my police career. I never really understood how to find help when it came to suicide. And honestly, when Ryan asked me to do this, my best friend Shelly committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
So for that to happen, like right under my nose, and I mean, we had so many laughs, so many things that I could share, that we were so close. Everybody in the department knew that we were like a team. But I think this is why I wanted to dedicate this show to her, and be able to try to explore, what are the different opportunities for people not to. I call it an opportunity because people should be able to find an answer and to get a resolution to problems. We shouldn't bottle things up and not try to help, because especially in law enforcement, and even when I started back in '96, it was taboo. I don't know if anyone's mentioned that before, but it was taboo to talk about mental illness or feeling a certain way, psychological problems, because there was already the fear that we had to man up. And how shall we man up? It's kind of, it hurt in those days too. Females in law enforcement were very, very scarce, and she had to prove herself to a whole different level, a whole different degree, that some of you CrossFit folks, Simon and now Mr. Marathon Ryan. I mean, there's definitely she would live up not only to the athleticism of being a police officer, but also the technique, the savviness, just the overall ability to outshine other male officers. And I think a lot of people will attest to that.
So Willie, both you and Shelley obviously had your trauma at Pomona PD, stuff that we go through as police officers. You had the trauma of dealing with Shelley's death, which we'll get into in a little bit specifically. But before that, you had two very specific critical incidents, two shootings that you were involved in that probably caused you some trauma, I would imagine. Can you tell us about those?
Well, the funny thing, when I first started my military, after I got out of the military, I had the GI Bill, so I was able to go to school. Everything was paid for. And my ultimate goal, one thing, again, bringing my father back, he always told me, you use this, don't ever use your hands. And he would show me his hands, and his hands were cracked with oil, like just embedded into his skin. Don't ever have hands like this. So he really pushed me to be educated. So I went to school, and the main thing that we take a break. Can we break real quick?
What's that?
Can we take a break real quick?
Oh yeah, man. I'll take. Go ahead. Yeah, it's yeah,
I know
it
it's
gets.
hard, but it's something just hit me, and I'm kind of like choking up.
Oh, you're good, bro. That's okay. Yeah, you're not the first, man. Trust me. We've had some really really deep episodes on here. So, oh man, we like that's what we pride ourselves in it being just really raw, and organic, and not really scripted. So,
What is it specifically that's drawing up some emotions, Willie?
You know, when I started law enforcement, I wasn't like I went to school to become a lawyer. I did 1 year of law school, and my wife got pregnant, and I always thought, that I never wanted my kid to live like a poor life like I did. So I had to get full-time work. And I applied to Pomona PD, Toyota in Ontario, and Sprint. And I got hired by all three. And I never wanted to be a cop because it's funny. You get people that get on the show, they dream about being a cop all their life. But I never wanted to be a cop. I never realized what an amazing job it was to be a cop. And there was a show, I don't know, this kind of older show, but it's called Law and Order. And Law and Order, they would have the cops go and catch the criminal, investigate the crime, and then the second part of the show is the prosecutor. So I always wanted to be the prosecutor, and I never thought about actually doing the cop work. But since I got hired by Pomona PD, I thought it was probably the best bet to go that route. One of the things about the oral interview, when I first found out, and this was after, I don't know if you guys remember Paul Martinez, Officer Paul Martinez. Paul Martinez, Lieutenant Irvin, and Joanne Crabb were on my oral panel. And once I got out of training and once I was already a cop, Paul Martinez told me, hey, they weren't going to hire you. And I was like, why do you say that? Because you came in to your oral interview all goofy, smiling, like this was like, there's no way this guy could survive Pomona. Why would we hire him? Because I guess the epitome of a police officer is like the big buff, strong guy that's going to come in, and I was kind of skinny back then. So, that's where I didn't have the best. How would I say, when I was going through training, I wasn't doing the best that I could because people didn't believe in me. But there was a few gentlemen, if it's okay, I can mention their names.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Urban was one officer that pulled me aside, and he put his arm around me and said, "Look, the job isn't easy. It's not going to always be what you think it is. Every day's different. There's no script. It's like you just get out there and you just do the work. Sometimes you have to be a good actor. You may not know the answer, but you'll find the answer because someone's there. Someone's going to be there to help you." So Tim Bergen was one, and Mel Bird, he was another one that when it came to the Koga and the tactics, and I told him, I was honest. I go, dude, I've never done stuff like this, like fight with people or arrest people. I was a liability lawyer type. So I was always thinking like, oh my God, if I twist their arm that way, I'm going to hurt them. They're going to sue me. There was a lot of problems in my training where I actually got sat down, and I had Rob Baker as a training officer. And some that remember Rob Baker, they know that he was probably one of the best, but one of the worst. If you're doing shitty and you're going to get let go, that's who you go to.
Right.
It's either you're going to pass his phase or you're not going to be a Pomona police officer. And that man, I could tell you, he really influenced my career by all the names I just gave, or just people that helped me get through training. And still, I was still kind of very green. And they told me, here, take the police car. Take the police car. You're on your own. I was like, no, please, can't you just come with me? I didn't want to go alone. It was just a freaky feeling, and But no, I went 10-8. So I had a few years of goofiness until 1998. 98, uh, Shelly actually helped me get through the academy. Shelly and me went through the academy together, and she was a strong runner. I was not. No, my body is not made for running. And she helped me get through the academy. Uh, we always stuck together. I mean, we worked the same squads. We were always beat partners. We always used to go to pool together. So we were done with a call at Phillips Ranch. It was like, I don't know, like B5 somewhere. And Shelly had like a little pet peeve. And I think she probably got this from Rob because he used to go for GTAs like crazy. If they're missing the little license plate light in the back of the vehicle, that was like a violation that we could pull a car over for. So we were talking about having dinner, Code 7, and we ended up saying let's go to Tropical Mexico, or not Tropical, what's the other one? The one on Gary?
Mexico Lindo.
Mexico Lindo, I'm sorry. We're heading over to Mexico Lindo. She's in front of me. I'm behind her in my unit, and all of a sudden, there's a vehicle, and it's missing the license light. I'm like, oh no. And she goes after it. As soon as she goes after it, I knew we were going to get in pursuit because the car just sped up like crazy. And we ended up going down, I believe it was either White or Hamilton, but we go down one of those streets and turn on Fernleaf. The car starts hauling ass down Fernleaf going westbound and just suddenly stops. And I'm hauling ass. And Shelly's able to stop her vehicle. I'm not able to stop mine. I had to go on somebody's front yard, and then the brakes don't work on grass. So I literally overpassed the suspect vehicle, which was kind of good because that gave me a head start on the foot pursuit. So the passenger jumps out, and he's like a rabbit, and the driver jumps out. Now I'm not a runner, but now I call him a kid, but the kid that ran out of the passenger seat, he was in the wind. He was flying down Fernleaf. And I was chasing after him. Shelly was literally parallel to me. She was right next to, like, maybe half the street over. And then I just can't believe that, what happens next is that I could see that she's almost on top of the guy, ready to just grab him. And at that point, he turns around, and all I see is fire come from his hands. I hear like a pop. It's not like the pop that you hear like at the range because you're more like in a closed-in area.
Yeah.
But it's like a pop that I knew what was going on. I just could not believe it. I think it was just like total slow motion, and I knew I had to fire. I had to fire at this guy. Again, being the goofy cop and never thinking that something like that would ever happen, even though like nowadays that's all I train and that's all I talk about. Always expect the worst. Never trust there. Always watch the hands. Look at the waistband. It's just it's a mentality that is what made me a Pomona police officer, was that shooting, because I thought my partner was dead. I thought Shelly got killed. I remember just putting rounds towards the guy. I ran to, like, the way we're trained, find the best cover that you can. I found a vehicle, which is this vehicle turns out to be a funny story too later on. But I'm yelling, Shelly, and she asked me if I'm okay. And this is gonna sound stupid, but I don't know if this is the adrenaline, but I felt like heat in my body, and I felt like, oh my God, I must have got shot, because I feel like my body just feels weird.
Yeah.
And I told her, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm okay." And we're both saying to each other, "We're okay." And it's funny because I'm behind a car and she's behind a trash can. And I go, "Dave, get behind the car." Another thing too is like it was nighttime, so I had a flashlight, but I never used my flashlight. I just didn't think about it. And this guy still was we shot him, and he's on the ground, and he still has the gun, and he's still moving. So my training, if now it would have been more seasoned, and I tell people, don't forget your flashlight. Don't forget your flashlight. But we're okay. We call 998, so everybody's rolling. And Dennis Cooper was one of the first officers that came towards me, and he got behind the vehicle where I was at. And well, before Dennis got there, the car that I was hiding behind, there was a person in there, and it was a college student that he saw the pursuit coming. He saw the lights and siren, so he pulled over like a good citizen and just pulled over to get out of our way.
Right.
It just so happened that right where we pulled over, we're all the shooting, and we're all like, get your hand, everything like we were saying, don't touch the gun. I can't remember it specific, but I just remember that the guy was down and he still had the gun by his hand and yelling at him. Well, that guy, when I was by myself, I told him, get down, get down. So when Cooper gets there, he pops his head up and he goes, who the fuck is this? And he pulls his gun and he's like, no, he's our witness. He's our witness, leave him alone.
And also the kid shit his pants, basically.
Pretty much. It was a wrong place at the right time for us.
Yeah.
But he was a perfect witness. He heard we were telling police.
What happened with the suspect?
So all the troops got there, and they set up. We set up on him. An arrest team went up and was going to attempt to put handcuffs on him. But as they're walking up, the guy, I guess he had a death wish. He was a 12th Street gang member. I think he had AIDS. I think he had already mentioned a week prior that Roger Iwig, another amazing officer, he worked Beat 1, and he knew everybody. He knew this dude. Basically, that he was making threats that eventually he would kill a Pomona cop. So this guy wasn't gonna go peacefully.
Yeah.
So as they're walking up as an arrest team, and he goes for the gun. And at that time, we already had at least 10 officers on scene. And I didn't shoot, but everyone else did.
Yeah, it was a hail of gunfire.
Yeah, it was just all kinds of gunfire. And a lot of lessons learned. A lot of some crossfire there, some bullets ricocheting. I mean, that shooting taught a lot of people a lot of things. And for me, it woke me up to what it is to be a police officer. It's like, oh my God, this is crazy. But I started just the job and just love it. I mean, it's the best job a man or a woman could have. In my opinion, it's just so awesome.
How did that affect you? How did it affect you, or did it have any effect on you at all?
Shelly was fine. I think it brought us closer. We kind of, it's almost like we saved each other in a way.
Yeah.
She obviously looked like she got killed or she got shot because she was a Baker to Vegas runner. She had like the second hardest run in Baker to Vegas as a female. So she was literally going to grab this guy and take him down. And when he shot, I don't see how he didn't hit her. He should have hit her because the bullet or the gun seemed like it was pointed right at her because he turned on her. And maybe it's one of those split-second things that if he would have waited a little bit longer on his turn, who knows? But yeah, it brought us closer, and again, we had a lot to talk about, and there's like a certain decorum of Pomona PD. And it's funny because I've worked with a lot of different law enforcement people, and for some reason, I think maybe you guys have heard stuff about Pomona PD, but there's a certain that we have a certain chip on our shoulder for being Pomona police officers, and I don't know. I really honestly don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I think we were very helpful with whoever. I just think they were just that they weren't Pomona PD. They had to talk shit about Pomona because we just had so much crime, so many things, and
it's like the repetition that cops now, but especially back then, they should become professionals at handling high-profile crimes, shootings, murders, extravagant murder scenes. Pomona police. I hold them to a candle against anyone else. They're very inept at handling these type of calls, and I think that's why we kind of have that reputation.
Yeah, and I would add on to that you know, we're fortunate enough. Well, it depends on how you look at it, but we're fortunate enough to work in a busy city where, you know, our cops have exposure to those type of things, right? A robbery to us is an everyday occurrence, right? A victim of a shooting, you know, is a weekly, couple times a week occurrence, you know, whereas a lot of our surrounding agencies that as well have great cops, amazing cops, but the crime levels in those cities are nowhere near as high as ours. So I would also add that the chip comes with the fact that we're such a busy city and our cops just go from calls to calls and they deal with these critical incidents on a daily basis. Whereas a lot of other agencies, you know, they may deal with the robbery maybe once a week or, you know, something to that effect, where we're always dealing with, you know, men, you know, guys with guns, you know, roll into a man with a gun, roll into this, roll into that, you know, gang fights. And so I think because of that, there's a bit of pride. At least I can speak for myself. You know, I'm proud to be a Pomona cop because, you know, we're you know, for lack of better terms, we're knuckle draggers, but in a good sense, right? We're knuckle draggers in that we're hard workers, and you know, we have all this exposure that a lot of agencies they just don't, because their crime isn't as high as ours. So I think, you know, I would say that that's probably where the chip comes from a little bit. But yeah, you know,
Definitely.
very well put. Yeah.
Willie, so you were fired upon in that incident, and you mentioned another one you were fired upon. And tell us about that one.
Real quick, when I first became a police officer too, it's funny because the first squad I came on, I heard on one of the podcasts they were talking, Dan Kono, another legend, talking about the Danny Frames and incident and murder. And when I first walked into briefing, it was Sergeant LaFleur and that squad it was like Rip McCrary, Chuck Becker, Mondo Lanier, Nita Bomber, Bozarth. It was a squad that when I walked into this room, I felt, what the hell am I doing in here? These guys were nothing but like badass looking dudes, and I'm like, well, hopefully they take care of me. But I sat down and I didn't know Danny Frame's chair in briefing, and right away I got my ass handed to me. Get your ass out of that chair. What the fuck's wrong with you? Go sit in the back, you idiot. I was like, oh shit, what did I do? But of course now, to me, those traditions are golden. That to me is like a memory that you just gotta respect. And so now two people are too sensitive, and you do that, it's like, oh, I'm gonna eat your. All right, good luck with it. Have fun with that. But yeah, so the second shooting, I mean, now I'm a more seasoned cop. I think it was like in 2008, to be honest. I think that's the right year, but it was just funny because Ryan and me we were corporals, and we worked together on our ship, and we had plenty of times we were boy units, and we were working whether it be bike
Who's that?
Bike patrol or
that's my cousin.
Right, it's definitely not your triathlon days, was it?
That's my cousin Brianaldo.
Oh Lord.
There was definitely some good times.
Absolutely.
Two-man cart, except for this night. Well, yes, it was. It was a good night.
That's a high body right there.
Everyone went home, so that's all that matters. But no, we were just like doing our usual thing, patrolling, working, and I don't know whose idea was it to go to Angela Chancellor. I was like, oh hell no, but we're a gang car. We gotta go there. Okay, let's go. I was driving, and Angela Chancellor, Southside Pomona, a lot of gang activity. Like when you drive in, they start whistling. I don't know if they still do that, but it was definitely a lot of gang activity, a lot of murders in that area, and I think Ryan and me are probably talking about what we're gonna eat or something so irrelevant other than like gang stuff. But we still had our game face.
You were partnered with Ryan on this one.
Yes, we were partners.
Yeah, I completely forgot about this OIS.
Yeah.
We're working a gang suppression car assigned to patrol, but there was extra officers on our squad. So we ended up taking, at the time, a 2-year-old unmarked Chevy Lumina.
I was gonna
So
say
we
that.
were-
It was all black, right?
Yeah, and later on, one of the lessons learned is always be familiar with the equipment before you deploy it. So I'll let Willie go from here.
Yeah.
So we're in this. It was an Impala, right? It was a black Impala.
Gold Impala. Yeah.
Well, anyways, we're driving. I'm driving, and we're going down the center alley, and everything seemed to be going as normal as just driving down an alley. But then all of a sudden, it felt like someone threw an M80 inside the vehicle, and it just blew up, and it just sounded so loud. And whatever it was, we were in a kill zone. We had to get the hell out of there. So I floored it and got out of the alley and went around to, I think it's called, is it Orchard Street? Or
Yes.
the last
Yep.
street?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so went out that way, but it was so funny. And this is the gladiator, the fight, the manliness of us being like what we are as Pomona cops is like,
Right.
I think Ryan like, there they are, let's go for it, let's go after them. I'm like, fuck. So I do a U-turn, and Ryan hits the lights, and as soon as it was a truck that had basically shot at us with a shotgun, and if they would have had the right ammunition, they probably would have killed Ryan.
Right.
All the bullets were on the passenger side of the vehicle. I think there was even some on the headrest that embedded in there, but nothing penetrated far enough to hit Ryan because I think the guy it was a 15-year-old kid to top it off.
Yeah.
15-year-old kid had a shotgun. We were driving the alley. He either walked up on the car and started shooting around with the vehicle on the passenger side. I got out of there. They're in a stolen truck. They're following us, thinking that we're just like a regular Impala driving through the neighborhood. And we turn around. We actually had lights in the vehicle. Ryan hits the lights, and as soon as he hits the lights, all doors, like 3 doors, open up, and they all run.
Oh,
Ryan went after 2 of them, and
So before I go after them, we hear the shots, and we're like, it's almost Christmas time in Pomona. Fireworks are year round. We were thinking M80, but we weren't quite sure. But we exited the kill zone. But I tell Willie, open the door. Let's go after him. And he couldn't unlock the door, and we were essentially stuck. I was yanking. Willie, open the door. Willie, open the door.
yeah.
Seconds later, he finally put it in park, and the car locks popped open. We didn't know it was a safety feature. Again, know your equipment. We could have really been hurt had we were trapped. Thankfully, the doors popped open and I was off. But go ahead, Willie.
So Ryan goes after the 2, and I had the guy that had the shotgun. I went running after him. The problem with that was that he went in between the buildings, and we're trained that once we lose sight, we stop chasing. And I heard Ryan, I'm out with 2. I was like, oh shit! So I ran over to Ryan, and I don't know, I wanted to hype it up, but tell me if I'm right or wrong. But I know you had both of them like a kneeling position, and I just grabbed one of them and took him down, and then the other one got up and ran.
Yeah, I caught both of them, and then, exactly when you kept one ran and then one ran into the apartment.
You're right. So that one ran, but we arrested the one. But it was so funny because the cavalry was already en route. We had the helicopter. Oliveri was one of the sergeants. I'm not sure who the other sergeant was, but there was an inner perimeter, there was an outer perimeter, and we started evacuating apartments. And it was funny because all the folks that were walking out of their apartments had that look, like, and pointing the finger, like, So another thing too that Pomona always had was some bitching canines. I mean, I think our canines had so many bites. Like I think Rob mentioned that they had titanium teeth because they're always getting bites.
Right.
But yeah, we set up on an apartment where we were pretty sure that the suspect was hiding. To make sure all the family, whoever, like regular folks, were taken out of there. And um, I remember the canine officer asking the person, because I was always needed to translate. He said, "Ask him if there's anybody else in that apartment," and nobody else is in there. I said, "No," and I said in Spanish to the people, and I said, "Okay." They make the announcement, Pomona canine, blah blah blah. What they say, and they let the dog loose, and sure enough, he got the other guy. And all of these guys were hardcore gang members.
Right.
It was funny because they're from Olive Street, and they were protecting. They thought that we were rival gang members in a plain unit because they were going around doing shootings in the same type of car.
Right.
So they literally thought that we were the bad guys. So when I guess they prosecuted the case, Casares, I think his name was, the shooter. He apologized to us. So he wrote a letter and apologized. And wherever there was, like, the other rival gang is 12th Street in Pomona, the Sharkies, where whenever there was a 12, he would cross it out. Like, even on the sorry letter, I thought you guys were, I didn't know you guys were cops and blah blah blah. So there was also that little respect back then, where
Right.
gang members weren't really out to kill us,
Yeah.
but they understood, that if you get caught, you get caught. Give up. And the canine ended up catching the second suspect. Casares, the one that I lost in the buildings, he did get away, but I mean, everybody. I think Ryan, had a really good reputation, especially with the Spanish community.
Right.
His sister, I think, was the one that turned him in. And she said, because he lived in those apartments, and the mom and the sister, they said, no, if we see him, we'll call you, we'll let you know. And I remember, of course, legendary Greg Freeman, Eric Berger, they were on this, they were totally trying to find every clue, every hunt them down, basically, and hunt him down. And I think they got a tip. The sister said that, hey, I think he's over here, or he came to the apartment. I'm not sure what happened, but they ended up arresting him. 15 years old.
Yeah. I go ahead. Sorry, Ryan.
Go ahead.
I like that story. One, because I was just a couple year cop, and I was there. I was on the scene, so I love hearing, like, listening to, like, OG cops talk about stuff, and I'm like, oh, I was actually there. I was just a young, I was a young cop at the time, but I was already on my own, and I was there. I remember the car in the East Alley of Angela Chancellor. It was facing southbound, right? You guys were in the East Alley facing southbound.
Yes. No. Yeah. No. Northbound.
Northbound. Okay. Yeah. So I remember it was the East Alley though. So it's cool to hear a story like that. What I'm most curious about is when everything calms down. You're like at 100 miles an hour, and your adrenaline is, it's like, when that shotgun hit the back window. You don't have time to sit and be like, oh my gosh, I almost just got killed. It was like, let's roll. Let's go catch these guys. Let's go. When you go home, after everything's said and done, interviews and reports and all this other stuff, what does the decompression look like? Like, do you remember? I mean, and this goes for both of you guys, I guess, because Ryan, you were there too. What did that decompression look like? Or was there ever such a thing?
I think one thing, it was all about helping others and the training, lessons learned. I wrote a paper I called it Warriors, and I talked about our mistakes. I talked about, and I really got grilled on one part that I missed out. I thanked everybody except for dispatch. And dispatch, they had my ass. They're so mad, but they did an awesome job. It's just that, like, when you talk about the adrenaline, you talk about you want to get information out. Don't ever forget your dispatchers, because they play a huge role that not everybody really understands, and that taught me the camaraderie. I mean, one thing I try so hard in my private life now at work and in the private is try to bring camaraderie into the workplace. And it's practically impossible. There's so many different personalities. There's so many different people that have different beliefs and different ways of doing things, and there's a know-it-all concept now, and I've never believed that. I believe that you can learn something new every day, and I'm old. I'm 56-year-old. You know that I'm still. If I can learn something from anybody, I will take it. And I'm one of the small department, and very familiar, like very close knit. So what I took from as far as decompressing, I mean, we talked a little bit, about it, and I don't think there was any kind of no counseling. Again, counseling wasn't really offered to. Like, if you accepted it, it was almost like it wasn't something that we really like ran to.
Right.
But
was it more you think it was more effective to just sit down and go have a beer with, like Ryan's say, and just talk about it as brothers together, as opposed to sitting in a chair in a formal setting talking about it?
With me, I kind of have a more of a, I guess, a unique and maybe too honest answer, but like with that incident, and Jaime, I was involved in an OIS with you years later on SWAT team, but both of them for me was like that I know of. I didn't receive any trauma from those because we spent so much time training for this type of things. What are you going to do during the situation? How are you going to react? And after it was done with, I'll take me and Willie's, first of all, those guys were lucky that we were trapped in our car door because the outcome would have been different for them. But when it was all said and done, I was proud of myself. I was proud of Willie that we got out, that we were calling on the radio, that we chased these guys, that we were aggressive in getting them into custody, being calm and putting out a perimeter. I was proud that all those years of training paid off. Same thing with our shooting, Jaime, exact same thing. So that I know of, I had never felt any, at least acute or obvious stress. My stress for my career comes from years and years of seeing traffic collisions with kids, sexual predators, good people killed. Those are the type of things that I literally wake up at 1 or 2 in the morning and think about. I was in Rosarito at my brother's house last week, and a friend of a friend was with his group, and she comes up to me and she told me that her sister last year or 2 years ago was asleep at her house in Colony in Pomona, and some random car went through the front yard, ran through the concrete, hit her in her bed as she was sleeping, pinned her underneath, and she was alive. I remember I was watch commander, and she was alive for minutes and killed her. Just a freak accident. And these sisters were so traumatized. And when they found out I was a watch commander, it was just a moment of bonding and tears for them. But even the trauma that I experienced in the watch commander's office, not even being there, I can imagine the cops that were on scene. So it's just years and years are the trauma that I feel. So a little different answer, but that's, and as far as processing it, me and Willie were really close. Yeah, you go out and talk about it and have a beer and chat it up, but definitely more of a long-term thing for me as far as trauma.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to your point that that you said just a minute ago that it's those incidents, not so much like those really big incidents. It's the accumulated trauma. Yeah, right? I guess that's a good way to say it. That like keeps you up at 2 a.m. I can attest to that because you text me at 2 a.m. when I'm like, why are you awake? I shouldn't be sleeping right now. The other part of that is, Willie, you had mentioned that you had wrote this paper and had kept dispatch out of the accolades, right? And sometimes we forget that they're there in the paramount role that they play in a lot of critical incidents. Well, now we've come so far that for almost every in every critical incident, and then keep in mind a critical incident in Pomona may be different in Laverne or Chino or Claremont, but a critical incident would be something like that for us, right? A car drives through a house and kills an innocent victim, or on rare occasion a young child that gets shot or something like that. We actually reach out to every employee involved in that now to include dispatchers and offer them counseling. Now, 99.9% of the time, the employees are like, thank you, I really appreciate you reaching out and offering, but I'm okay. And there is that, that fraction of percentage of people like, you know what, I do want to take advantage of it and speak to somebody. And I think that just goes to show like how far we've come from, hey, you were involved in a critical incident. It's part of the job. Suck it up, and tomorrow come back in and go ready to go 10-8. Whereas now we're like, hey, we want to make sure that you're mentally sound to be able to come back tomorrow and perform the same duties that you did yesterday before you were involved in the shooting. So we've certainly come, a long way. And I think people would argue, right? I do think that some old school cops would argue, this is a fact. They would say that might make a weaker culture, and I think others would say, kudos to the new generation that are taking advantage of these things. And I've seen both sides of the fence. I really have. I've seen, they can be taken advantage of at times, but I also see how it really has helped people. And I've seen how it's helped people and changed people in our own department, the culture that it's created, and the culture that we foster. So, we are proud now to be where we are. And I do look back on those times, and I wish that you guys had that ability. Even as a young cop 20 years ago, it was still taboo, like you said. The whole feelings thing was still really taboo, and the mental health thing was, we're cops. This is what we do. This is what you got into the profession. Same with the military, right? At that time, it was like, this is what you came into. You should expect this. And, if you're gonna cry, go do it in your room by yourself in the dark where nobody can see or nobody can hear you. I think we've gotten away from that, and try to take more of an aggressive approach to it, I guess is the best way to say it. But yeah, I love that story. Really good story, and interesting to hear, because again, I was such a young cop when it happened that I almost forgot that Ryan was a part of that. I just want to show you how often these things happen in our career, through our lifetimes, that you just have a tendency to forget, a lot of these shootings.
Yeah, and one more thing I'll say towards that, Jaime, is I mentioned that the incidents I was involved in didn't affect me because I was proud that I reacted to my training, but I'll be clear that my incidents were each time we were shot at with one round, there's some of my fellow Pomona police officers that have been in more harrowing shootings than that, and I could definitely see trauma from that. So
absolutely,
nothing away from those incidents.
Absolutely.
You included.
Yeah, there's been a few in my past. So Willie, we're going to kind of segue. You had touched in the beginning of the episode, this episode, about the close relationship you had with Shelly, and how she really kind of influenced from the academy, almost, right? Had helped you out, and then kind of influenced your career, really helped you out in your career, and you guys were, best friends, so to speak. Kind of talk to us about Shelly, and talk to us about what she meant to you, and if you can, tell us about the day of her passing and anything that may have led up to that.
There's the word loyalty, and I don't even know if that even reaches the extent of the type of person that she was to me. And we loved each other. Like, there's a lot of love amongst a lot of officers in the department, but we just clicked. Everybody wanted to be Shelly's friend. Everybody liked her. She was such a popular person, but for whatever reason, we just clicked. I made her laugh, and we would talk a lot just about everything like that. It wasn't police work. I think Ryan made a point on one of the shows that even though we were cops, we still acted like normal people too. And our cop was just a hat, and then sometimes we would just talk regular, like our children. Our daughters are 2 months apart. Like, my wife was pregnant when Maya, Leo, was But ultimately, the life that we had was always like knowing what was going on. And when Ryan mentioned the show, and I had seen it before, and I never knew what could I have done for Shelly, because the day that it happened, I had talked to her the night before, and I still have her message, what she was going to do for Thanksgiving, make her famous mashed potatoes. And when I got the phone call on Thanksgiving, I had already ate. We eat earlier than normal, I guess. But I was just sitting I was laying on the couch. I don't remember what I was watching, but it was just like an unreal feeling that it wasn't true. Like, there's no way that this could be true.
Who called you?
Bert Sanchez, he just told me, Willie, did you hear? I just remember those words. Willie, did you hear? Did I hear what? Shelly killed herself. And I'm like, I just remember just screaming. And my family, they were cleaning up the kitchen. And they came to me, and they didn't know what was wrong with me. They didn't understand what was going on. All I could do was scream and scream and scream. No, 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 no. No. But I think, when Ryan said about coming on the show, I think what could I have done better for her, being her best friend? What could I have done to make her stronger so that she wouldn't have to do that? Because her mom was the only person that helped me get through it. Her mom told me, Willie, that wasn't Shelly. That was a dark person that went into my daughter. Don't blame yourself. Said, you were everything to her. She helped me get through it. But you never really get through that. When you're that close with somebody, you just can't. You just don't get through it. So what do? I stay positive. I stay happy, and I try to think, how or what can I do to help anybody? And depression is a serious thing. Like, when you see that somebody is hurting, and I think back of one conversation that Shelly tried to have with me, and this is where I kind of place blame on myself in a certain way, even though I'm sure there was other things. But one time she wanted to talk to me, but she was a sexual crimes detective for child crimes, and she wanted to talk to me about a 3-year-old case that she was working on, and she started talking about how the 3-year-old was sodomized. Now, I don't know how you guys just hear me say that. We just cringe. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's just horrible. The evil shit that people do to others, and when it's a kid, it's just like multiplied by I don't know how much, but it's just unreal. Like, how the fuck do people do this shit? But instead of me listening to her, I said, Shelly, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. Don't tell. I don't want to talk about that. No. But we had children. Our children were about, probably about that age. So, anyways, I regret not having that conversation with her. I wish I just would have listened to her. I wish I would have been strong and not ignored it, not ignored her. Because we would talk about everything. And that's where now, when I see opportunities, when people are talking about depression, or people are talking about, I think everybody at one time or another, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but suicide is a thought. Suicide is a thought that goes through your head, especially as a cop. It's so easy to do it. You have all the means to do it. But again, how do you prevent that? How do you get people to not want to do that?
Yeah.
And I think your show, reaching out to people, setting up the counseling. But at the end of the day, there it's Kevin Rogan was one of my first sergeants, and he was a captain when he gave Shelley's eulogy. And he brought up a very interesting stat. I'm not sure if it's the same now, but he said that the majority of law enforcement officers, they don't die because of shootings. They don't die because of stabbings. They die because of suicide. But again, it goes back to we don't, as a department, it seems like there was no honor because the department can't allow, that person that commits suicide to be given all the police ceremonies. Shelley had a nice funeral, but in my time, there was at least, I think, two or three officers that committed suicide, and for different reasons. I never imagined that Shelley would be one of them.
Hey, Willie. You obviously had your experience with Shelley's suicide, and like you said, I could name a handful of others from our department that have unfortunately perished that way. Being in the shoes that you have been and experiencing this both as a friend of someone who did it and a co-worker friend with other people, what advice would you give to someone struggling with mental health that's maybe thinking that way, and also someone that's a friend that maybe sees what they think are some signs that their friend could go that way? What advice would you have for them in both those instances?
Well, first, if you're close to somebody and if you see that they're off, but again, like I'm saying, Shelley did not seem off, so it's kind of a hard thing to identify. If it's something that's prolonged and you're living with someone, or whether it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it may be, and there's just strange behaviors happening, it's okay to be direct. Like, I had an employee in Malibu. She was abandoned. She grew up in foster homes, and we were working. She's like one of the house cleaners at this estate that I work at. And she told me how depressed she was. And she even mentioned, she almost went so far to say, like, I don't want to live here. No, I just want to live. I go, and I told her straight out, you want to commit suicide. That's what you want to do? I go, you really think that's the right thing to do? And I caught her attention because she seemed a little shocked that I would just bring it out like that. And I'm not afraid to talk about suicide anymore. I think it's something where, again, back then it was a taboo subject, but I'd rather talk about and exposing a person that they may have suicidal, thoughts, and maybe deal with it in the lowest level and help them out and say, hey, I'll get you help, or we could talk, or we could do whatever. But don't think that way. You're too valuable to too many people, because now I can tell you, I'm mad at Shelley. I think it's a selfish act, and I can speak intelligently about it because it happened to my best friend. So it's something where I don't think she's mad at me for helping others, because that's the type of person she was. We don't know if she regrets it, but I think of Robin, and I just think of Leo and how they missed out on one of the best moms that they ever had, and that's why I'm mad at Shelley. So I think you got to turn it that way, where their life is too valuable, and sometimes you can get it through counseling, sometimes you get it through the people that you love and that you're close to, but you can't disguise it, you can't hide it, you can't be afraid of talking and saying the word. And I think that's the problem, that people are afraid to say, like, someone might commit suicide. And if you're smart, you can see the signs. You just gotta try and figure it out.
Willie, we always talk about how advanced Pomona PD is these days with looking out for signs, and we offer counseling. There's so many things since you've been there that our department truly excels at. And I know for a fact it wasn't back then. Pomona PD in 2012, much less years before that. What do you think the chances were of Shelley reaching out to somebody if those resources were available at the department at that time? You think the outcome may have been different?
I also think it's a problem with police officers because we all have guns available to us. I mean, in that dark moment, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. Nothing's going to stop you. That's why I mean, this is the show. This is the conversation that nobody likes to have. If the resources would have been there, I don't want to say full-heartedly that I know that Shelley was actually talking to a counselor. I think she was possibly taking some mental or some drugs that could help her, and I honestly don't know what they may have been. But again, it goes back to, as a cop, you have to almost hide the fact that you're having depression, and that's one of the biggest problems. That how do you overcome that? And I think we're on the right track. What you guys are doing at the department, nobody ever had that. Talking to peers, talking to your close friends, family. But again, sometimes the person's not going to come out and say what they're feeling. You have to tell them, hey, don't tell me you're thinking about suicide. It's not a joke. But you know the person you're talking to. You know how you're going to bring it up, and you know what's the best way to bring it up without them feeling so antagonized. So I think these are the right steps. Is it going to stop suicides? I don't know what the statistics are right now. I never, I don't look at it, but I think in one way or another, I would go as high as 70 to 80% of police officers at one point or another, at some low point of their life or depression, suicide is a thought, but it doesn't really play out. But okay, why would I think that? Oh my God, I can't do that.
I think you hit it on the head, Willie. I think you're absolutely right. Once someone makes up their mind truly to do it, they're going to do it. That's why a majority of the calls we go to where people call us and tell them, I'm going to kill myself, they're really not. It's those people that we show up after the fact, and they had it already in their head to do it, and they did it. So I truly believe you're right. Once someone is committed, truly committed to doing it, for the most part, it's a done deal, which is why it is so important for us to watch these warning signs and catch them before they get to that point.
Yeah, and there are those rare cases, and some that we've actually had on the podcast, guests that have experienced that. That sometimes, in rare cases, there's those that they're the absence of warning signs. There is no warning signs. And the folks that actually do commit suicide, they're so good at bottling up these feelings that there's no indicators to friends and family that there's something off. And it sounds like that was probably the case. The case with Shelley and a couple other guests that we had. But yeah, like Ryan hit it right on the head, and it's something that we preach to. You guys are the best. You guys are your brother's keepers, your brothers and sisters' keepers. You're the best as a watch commander. I wouldn't know when somebody's off, right? Because I don't interact with them every single day. But as your beat partner, you might know something's off, right? If your beat partner comes to work all week, or your squad mate comes to work all week, and something is just off, the way he says hi, the way he talks to you, the body language, I think it's important that we, as friends, that we talk to them. Okay, is everything okay? Like it's, you don't see yourself this week. And sometimes they're hard conversations, right? Because it means that we got to be vulnerable with people sometimes, and that's such like an icky word to us sometimes. Even in 2025, as police officers, it can still be a little uncomfortable when we talk about feelings and stuff. So yeah, you hit it. You kind of hit it right on the head. One of the things I want to ask you, Willie, with regards to Shelley is, with all the years of pain that you've coped with, going through this tragic incident, how do you honor today going forward, and even in your past? How do you honor Shelly's memory in your life, your work, or even your leadership style? What has she imparted on you?
I was gonna bring that up. I always visit her. Always.
I love that picture.
I haven't put what. I had a Great Dane, a beautiful dog. His name was Remy. He got got the surgery done and saved him. And a year later, he ended up dying, but for a whole different medical reason. But the funny thing is that I took him to the cemetery, and he met Shelly, and it's just funny. I don't know if this sounds weird. Maybe some people will understand it, but there's a connection with an animal sometimes. And I had such a connection with Remy that was amazing. And I almost want to blame Shelly. He goes, "Damn, you took my Remy from me." He was such an awesome dog. I got another Great Dane now, but the funny thing is that I do honor Shelly. I take her flowers. I do when I'm down with myself. I just go and lay next to her and just have the sun hit me in the face, and just I always ask her the same thing too. I go, "Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it? Look at this is bullshit. Why we gotta see you like this?"
Yeah.
So I'm glad to say I recently spoke to Robin, and hopefully someday we could go to lunch or something and just kind of talk about their lives. And Leo too, who's going to UCLA now. I mean, there's my son graduated from UCLA, so when she told me she got accepted to UCLA, I was like, wow. And then my daughter wanted to do the same type of work that Robin's doing, some kind of graphic designing. But the crazy thing is that she's actually got out of that field, and now she's going to be a nurse.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love hearing that.
It's good to hear that. I always want. I think they know, but their mom was just a legend. One of the first female cops that could actually live up to doing the job as a police officer, and anyone will take her for her back. She could handle her business. Never forgetting her. I mean, I think that's the thing, like with Daniel Frames, like never forget. And I hate Thanksgiving. The anniversary's coming up, but definitely go and see her on the 22nd. Sometimes if I can't go because I got stuck at work, but I always go the day before or the day after. And I always post it. That's why I hardly post things on Facebook, or that's all I have is Facebook. But I like to post that so people can remember, like, hey, she's still a spirit. And I do think that she's a divine intervention for me sometimes. I think she's like a guardian angel, because I've been, even in my private business life, it's been a roller coaster, but I've become successful to a degree where, my son's in medical school. He's a 3-year medical student, got a scholarship at Western University.
It's awesome.
Oh, wow.
My older son, he's a scientist working at some, I think it's James Hardy is the name of the company, but gave a presentation, and we were listening to this presentation. It's all scientific, and we're like wondering, what the hell is he talking about? But he just recently got married to my daughter. Gave me a grandbaby, so I have a grandbaby now.
Awesome.
My other daughter is, all my kids, everyone's good, everyone's good. And I know there are things like I'll share with Shelly, and I think she sees it. And I don't know, sometimes I give her credit for helping me push forward. Business is unpredictable.
Yeah. Sometimes
it's good, sometimes it's bad. I think one of your guests one time mentioned about Lincoln Financial or the Bird Comp. Oh my God! Nowadays, especially because cops have to retire so much older, They got to put money in early.
It's true.
Luckily, I have my Pomona retirement, and now I'm building another retirement at Pomona Valley, and I put as much as possible in that thing because I will retire someday. I'm too young. I hate hearing the cops that retire and then a few years later they're dying. I think there's too much adrenaline that we have in our system that we have to stay busy.
Yeah.
We have to stay busy, and we have to. As long as we're able to do it, as long as we have our health, as long as our bones and joints aren't breaking down, keep working.
Yeah. You know, there's actually some science behind that. I wish I had the actual statistics in front of me, but I've read this in numerous different places, in numerous classes and stuff, that the adrenaline that you experience for 30 years or close to 30 years, if you retire on there, that it's the levels are so high, and then you retire, and then they just and it does something. It's dangerous for the heart. I don't know the science behind it, but basically that going at 100 miles an hour and then going to zero, it causes like heart disease and stuff like that. So that's why we see a lot of cops that die within 5 years of retirement, because they go from 100 to zero and there's nothing in between. They have they don't do nothing in when they close one chapter and another one opens, they just there's nothing there. They kind of just hang their hat on always being that cop, and it really is dangerous. And that's not to say that when you retire, go out and do some job that's going to keep you running at 100 miles an hour, but that you still stay active, not just physically but mentally as well, right? Because this is also a muscle, and it needs to be exercised as well, just like biceps or whatever other muscle people train at the gym. So really great advice, Willie.
We have so many examples. I think of Bozovich.
Yeah, Phil.
Bozar committed suicide. Bozovich died just because he retired.
Yeah.
There's so many names.
Yeah.
And you want them, after doing a full career, enjoy yourself now. Have fun. Go lay at a beach somewhere, or do whatever makes you happy. Go fishing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to do something, because
absolutely
putting the brakes on all of a sudden and then losing all that happiness of, again, putting the uniform on is such an honor, and being a cop and helping people. I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
It really is. So Willie, as we start to close up here, one of the things we like to ask as kind of a closing question to all of our guests is, if there's a piece of advice that you could impart on, the younger generation of veterans, police officers, people looking to be police officers, people looking to go in the military, what's one piece of advice that you could offer them, I guess, for career sustainability, mental health, and sustainability? What would you tell them?
So, pardon my French, but stop being so fucking sensitive. Believe in tradition. I'm definitely a dying breed. The type of you can't be a crybaby. Life isn't easy. Push through it. You can make great things happen if you just don't give up. Plan for your retirement. Plan early. I wish somebody would have told me that when I first started Pomona, that just put in $50 of your check. When your children, if you have children, start putting a little college fund, $25 of your check into your newborn baby's bank account. There's a lot of things now financially. We're not financial people as cops, and that's another transition we didn't really talk about too much, the business part, but there was a lot of lessons learned there too. But the reality is that you're cops, you put your uniform and you go and kick ass. I'm sorry, it's like that's all you look forward to, is just go and helping people. You're not thinking about the stock market. You're not thinking about is your deferred comp doing good.
Right.
You're thinking about, staying alive and helping your brothers and sisters, and be good people. Don't ever forget where you came from. You too. Don't ever forget where you came from. You guys play a major leadership role that's going to mold the next generation. Um, don't let them be crybabies. Don't let them be wussies. Let them know that uh, tradition is something that's so important. History teaches us a lot of lessons, and right now our world is in a weird state of affairs because I didn't deal with the disrespect that you guys deal with now. People respected us. People loved us. Kids used to hug me.
Yeah.
Families used to. Where's Morataya? I mean, it was a great feeling just being a cop. But the sad thing now, I see toddlers on the news where they're kicking cops or talking like nonsense and cussing at cops. Or before, it's just a different world. And I think about it, and I've said this to a few people. I wouldn't want my kids to be a cop nowadays. It's too much of a hassle. It's like, why do you guys deal with the stuff that you deal with, but somehow a special training on it's going to happen. Media is going to be against you guys. Uh, Again, not trying to get political in any way, but it's definitely something that the future is going to play a weird a weird game with law enforcement, and I just don't know what it is. People need to understand that police officers are good people. They're trying to do an honest job. They're trying to protect everybody, and that's the bottom line. Doesn't matter the situation. If there's a bad guy out there, that bad guy needs to go to jail. That bad guy needs to understand you don't hurt people. And when we lose that, it's almost like this thought that came through my head right now. You guys, would you rather be loved or would you rather be feared? That balance has to be there. Uh, because right now, people killing cops is like no big deal. It almost seems like nobody cares.
Right.
It never used to be that way. So the future cops, the future leaders, somehow you guys have to make them understand that you're good people. Peer pressure. I've seen a lot of cops now get in trouble with all these little sexual cases popping up from different cities. Um, I mean, the peer pressure. Don't embarrass. Don't be a headline. Don't embarrass our department.
Right.
I mean, that's another huge one to me. Like I say that at the hospital all the time. Like, don't be a headline. Don't bring any shame to the hospital. And I tell the peers, peer supervision is a bitch. I go, have them live up to the expectations and standards, and don't change them. But I don't know. I think I could go on and on about there's so many different things that you can do as giving advice, but at the end of the day, uh, police officers, good people. You're gonna have a bad apple here and there. You get rid of them, but at the end of the day, the true passion is to help people. Uh, treat everybody like if you're going into your own family's house, like you're gonna treat your mom and dad, help your mom and dad,
Yeah.
this brother. I mean,
I love that. I say that all the time too. Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Keep you out of trouble.
It's true. And excellent closing words. Ryan, you have anything, any last remarks? Anything for Willie?
Just makes me think, man, what a wild roller coaster of a career that we have in law enforcement. You start off, you're brand new, you're young, you love wearing the uniform and chasing people and arresting them and doing all the fun things that cops do. And then you segue into the trauma and, we eventually lose some of our friends, just like Willie lost Shelley, and we've lost a lot of people. So just a reminder to us, we're so good at being partners in the field and backing each other up. Let's continue that off duty. Watch those warning signs. Be an ear for our friends. Us as cops, we tend to compartmentalize, and not only that, but mask our trauma with a lot of humor. Cops are some of the funniest people I know, and if you ever go in a cop locker room or briefing room, it's hilarious. But some of that is to mask some of this trauma that we encounter. Be productive in the way that we process it. Whiskey and War Stories. We love it, but whiskey in moderation, right? Have a good diet, work out. Don't have all cop friends. Religion, family, read a book, whatever that is to you. Just have moderation and try and make this roller coaster ride last 30 years if you can. So, Willie, thank you for coming here. Very poignant words. You really took me back. You've been through a lot. I admire you. Very smart man, business savvy. Definitely proud to have you as a friend. Thanks for coming on.
But all I can say is that I love you guys. Never stopped, and love Pomona PD. I'm really happy that you guys are doing this. I do think you're making a difference, and it's going to help somebody. And I'm glad I was able to, if say the right word to help somebody. That's all that matters to me. It's a great thing, Hyman.
Yeah, thanks.
Ryan, I mean, you being in your position and you believing in this, it goes to show, the heart that you have.
Appreciate it. Jaime,
yeah.
Bring us home, man. What are your thoughts on all this?
I always like to pick little points that our guests say that resonate with me. One of the things you said that I have not heard previously when we talk about things like mental health and suicide and stuff like that is you said it's okay to be direct. And I think those words are like really strong, right? Because a lot of times, even in my current role right now, I will see behaviors that are unorthodox. Nothing that's policy violating or anything of that nature, but I'll see things. I'll see things sometimes in my peers, coworkers, subordinates. That's just off, and I think I pride myself most of the time that I speak to them about those issues, but there are times that I don't do it. And if you ask me right now, why don't you do it? I couldn't give you an answer. I don't think I'm a coward. I don't know. And sometimes it's tough, right? Sometimes it's tough to connect those two dots. It really is. It's tough. Maybe we don't know that person well enough, right? Maybe he's not, I don't know him as well as Ryan, right? So it's a little bit tougher for me to have a conversation with maybe a newer cop that I don't know. I don't know. But when you say it's okay to be direct, I don't know, what's the word? Reinvigorates me, right? Like it re-energizes me to every time I see that, be like, hey man, is everything, come in here. Is everything okay? I just want to check up on you, man. Is your family going good? You taking time off when you need to? It's those little things I think that are important. So to everybody that's listening, to our followers, like Willie said, it's a perfect piece of advice. It's okay to be direct. Be direct with people. If something is off, it's okay to be direct with them. And maybe nothing's off, right? Maybe they just, they're just feeling some type of way. Maybe nothing's off, but it's okay to be like, hey, is everything cool? Yeah, everything's great. Thanks for checking in. Right? Cool. Done. But I love that. It's okay to be direct. And then you also talked about, perseverance. You touched on it kind of a few times. But to persevere, when bad things hit you or don't go your way, or, sometimes we complain about small, minuscule things that in the big picture are minuscule. Maybe in that hour, right? It's like, oh my God, it's such a big thing. But in the big picture, it really isn't, right? Life could be so much worse, right? As we know from your stories today. And then finally, just be good people. And I've always said that. I think it's one of the most important things you said, because every new cop that comes in, I always sit him in the office and I talk to him. And I always tell them, go out there, and I expect you to be a kick-ass cop, right? I expect you to go out there and I expect you to arrest bad guys. I expect that from you. I expect you to help good people. But I also expect you to be a good person. I expect you to treat people just like that. I say that if your mom was pulled over, the same way that you would want a cop to treat her, that's how I expect you to treat everybody that you deal with. And that's the part that I really want people to know about us, right? Is that, there are times when we do have to take the white gloves off, right? And we have to get dirty because it calls for it. That's what people force us into. But for the most time, I always use this expression, and I think I may have learned it from another guest before. But when it's time to be a bulldog, be a fucking bulldog, and be a fucking bulldog. But when it's done, put the bulldog in the cage and be the golden retriever with everybody, right? Be the golden retriever. So, I really like that. And I'm so grateful for someone like yourself to come on because you were an old school cop. And it's really tough to get old school cops to come on. And I've reached out to a couple. And some that we know, I'll remain nameless because it isn't important, but some that's around your tenure, around the time that you started or earlier. And it's hard because they did grow up in a time where it was taboo to sit here and talk about these things. And for someone like yourself that grew up in old school Pomona, old school mentality, to be here now and talk about these things that a lot of guys around your tenure just won't talk about. Because it's they didn't grow up that way. It was really uncomfortable. So for someone like yourself to come here and discuss old versus new and back then versus now and some of the traumas that you've experienced and went through and how you kind of cope with it and some advice, it was so grateful to have someone like that come on and speak about that because it really does give a completely different framework and a different perspective to what we're trying to do here. And again, you won't know it, and I probably won't know it, but your words probably are going to touch one of our followers in some way, shape, or form, and we'll probably get a message on our Instagram that will say thank you, because that's what usually happens. But to come on here and spread your knowledge, really, we're so grateful. And you won't know the impact that it's really had on people, but I can assure you that it'll touch somebody in some place that me, you, or Ryan has never met or never talked to, and that's the goal here. So thanks for coming on, brother. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Definitely. Any last minute closing things before we wrap the episode up?
No, looking forward to the next one.
Yes, sir. Okay, so this will conclude season 3, episode 7. Special guest Willie Morataya. Again, if you like these stories, please follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. Share it. Again, we're just out there to try to help. If one episode helps one person, then this is a win for us. So thank you, everybody. Willie, thank you very much for coming on, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.